a reward. It can be a curse too. There's many different reasons. It'd be rich and poor. You have to live on every continent in the world. You have to live in every country in the world. You have to be every religion in the world and every race. You have to know what it's like to experience absolutely everything, every piece of every situation. And that gets a little overwhelming to people. This is what's happening. In between, you're going back to the spirit side and finding out more and coming back and forth. But there is so much to learn. And usually when I say all of this, people start looking very discouraged. You know, I got to do all of that. But if you realize when you've come to this point where you're asking questions, you're wanting to know more, when you get to that point, I think you have already gone through all of those experiences. And now you're finished and you're on the way out. Because once you have experienced everything you need to experience, and you don't want to keep going around and around on the wheel of karma, you want to get off of that and go to the next lesson. When you finally get finished, then you return to God, to the source, and its full cycle. With all of the information you have accumulated through hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes and experiences, you take it back to God. And then somebody in the audience one time said, then what? You know? That's supposed to be the ultimate when you finally learn it all and return. But I asked them that one time, then what if we all go back? They said, then it explodes out and everything starts all over again. Because it's a constant learning of information. And one man said, well, there must be a point you get to when you've been there, done that. You've done every possible thing you could ever do in this universe. And you've no reason to keep coming back again and again. Well, they said, there's other universes. There's other realities. There's other dimensions. There's a whole lot of other places you can go to. Not just this one. So it's endless. It goes on and on and on and on. And I was told, this is another interesting point, all of you have been part of creation. You're all co-creators with God in the very beginning. When he began creating these things, many of us were a part of that. So some of the things that people have told me, they were there when these things were being created. I've had them, in the new book, it talks about those that were there with the creating of the water of earth, creations of the earth, and some of them were there with the creation of universes in the very beginning. And this one, it was interesting that she said she was sent out with others to begin creating the universes. You know how they were created? With color. In the beginning, everything is white, the white light. Then it has to break down into colors. The first universe that was created was red. It's nice we have all these red seats here. Was red. Everything on it was red. And other ones were making universes that were blue and green. They were just playing with it to see what was going to happen. But we were all there in the beginning trying all these new things. But does that surprise you, or does it open up new possibilities of ways of thinking? But this was what was happening in the very beginning. We were doing these things. And they also said, many of the other universes that they have created do not obey the rules of this universe. Sometimes the planets may be square, they may be triangular, they may wobble in different kinds of orbits. Maybe they don't go round, maybe they go in spirals. There's no rules. And I said, but that goes against the law of physics. The law of physics in this universe. Every universe that's created has its own laws of physics. The people on them, the planets on them, everything can react in different ways. So I've had many people go to these lifetimes where they were doing all of these things. And I find it fascinating. Now they're back here in this life. It's like, why did you have to come down? This would be like coming back to kindergarten again if they were able to do all of those things. Okay. I'm watching the clock here too, but okay. But anyway, okay, I've got so many things I'm trying to figure out which one to talk about first, because they told me to keep on going. I was supposed to go to 6 o'clock, and I want to have some time for asking questions also. Okay. A strange thing is beginning to happen in work. It's been happening in the last several years. When I'm doing the sessions, instead of going back to past lives, the person is going back to the source where they began. And they're there, they're back with God, they're with the source, and it's so beautiful and wonderful they don't want to leave. And I'm always talking to them. I said, well, I know they left because here is the body laying there. You must have left that place. If it was so beautiful, why did you want to leave? They said, I heard the call, and I answered the call. Now, what's happening now, and the ETs are very much involved with this, they have been monitoring us and watching us since the very beginning of the creation of the planet and life on the planet, because they are the ones who created us. They told me in one of my books, they said, why do people say, we're here to take over the world? I said, it's ours, it always has been. We've been taking care of you since the beginning, and shaking our heads about it too. But they cannot interfere. That's the prime directive. Just like Star Trek says, non-interference, that's real. They cannot interfere in what the species is doing. They just have to allow it to go on and on and on. In some of my other videos, the lectures I've done, I spent the whole lecture on talking about all of that. But they have to let the people go on and make their own mistakes and keep on with it. And all they do is monitor, watch, and they try to help where they can, but they can't interfere. The only time they would be allowed to interfere would be if we got to the point we were going to destroy the planet, if we were going to blow the planet up. If we got to that point, they would have to step in, because the destruction of this one little planet over here would disrupt the entire solar system. It would disrupt dimensions. It would disrupt the whole universe. So that would never be allowed to happen. If that ever happened, they would have to step in and keep it from happening. So they said everything was going along fine until the end of the 40s, beginning of the 50s. Do you notice at that time is when we began having the influx of UFO sightings at that time? You know why? They were monitoring us, and all of a sudden, they noticed the atomic bomb. And oh my gosh, what are these kids playing with down there? So they came in to watch and see just what's going on here. And they knew with what we were fooling around with, we didn't have any business doing it, we didn't know how to handle it, we didn't know how powerful it was. And they said, now what are we going to do? They will never know how to handle this, and they're going to end up destroying the world. That cannot be allowed. So they kept saying, they said, we have been on this cycle for so many eons, coming back again and again and again. We don't learn the lessons. We keep making the same mistakes again and again, coming back with karma over and over and over. We're on the wheel of karma. This is why Jesus came, to get us off of the wheel of karma. That's the only thing he was trying to save us from, so we could progress. They didn't understand that, but they could see we're not advancing. All we're doing is making the same mistakes, having to come back again